Hello, War Divisions fans. I'm Jackie Fox, and you might be wondering, as the person who is maybe the most visible Sadali player on global right now, one of the I don't want to say pioneers. It's hard to feel like a pioneer for Sadali for a couple of reasons. A, I'm just playing him on Earth. This isn't unpredictable or new. B, there's not a ton of variety of ways to play Sadly at first. There weren't a lot of teams to really compare. And one thing I noticed is that I think in a lot of ways Sadly is meant to pair better with Exia. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to do them a video together, and I'm going to be emphasizing teams that include both of these characters because I really think that they were a power couple. That being said, some of the best combinations with them are going to be either someone who has attained a certain level of godhood, be that Gilgamesh or Ashen Mont, but also generally a good healer, be that Luciel or... Well, I didn't rank any of them, but Summer Resnick seems to do pretty well with these characters as well. Renoa does an okay job. She actually did pretty decent on offense, and that's because people in Guild Battle run a lot of Lightning on offense. This was a mono Earth team that she ranked on. But as I go through this, so that you don't have to sit and look at this spreadsheet the entire time, I will be sharing my early testing video. This is like literally I just 140'd her. I have never played her before in my life. I hadn't done any sort of practice for this. This is my first try with her, and I didn't see her lose. I also didn't see an opponent, except maybe one, that was below... Actually, I think the first player was also above rank 190, so like some very high tier, like day one... or maybe Power Whale, or because I've been playing for a long time and it's hard for me to get my rank above, say, 180. So definitely some of the most experienced players in the game, and none of the matches were close. They dominated this whole fight. Man-Eater control, she works into the CT shenanigans for Ashen Mont. And yet, despite all of that, unfortunately there aren't very many people playing this team, and I think it's very strong, and I think it would do better if more people were playing it. I'm either absolutely terrified of the 6 teams that ranked above it, or this team, people just haven't figured it out yet, and something needs to give so that this team can be great. Because I know it's got the potential, but there's only about 16 people between offense and defense playing this per day. So it was one of the least used teams on here, but wait, there are less used teams than that. In fact, there's one that I never even found on offense, not even once. And out of the 10 days I looked at for this, Gilgamesh, Lucio, and Sadali only had 2 days where they actually showed up on offense, and they were, well, on average, they were both pretty good. So definitely a notable team there that not many people are using either, and that's what the series is trying to find. So, a few key takeaways. The key partners for these two characters is well, first and foremost, each other. It's not just that they're doing a lot of the same things and able to keep each other healed and also apply a ton of effects. I mean, they're going to pile so many effects onto each other's skills and so many effects on the other people on your team's skills. I mean, Man-Eater down being one of these on hit is really powerful. Exia herself has a lot of ways of manipulating her and other people's CT. In part through healing, and we saw how powerful this is with Summer Resnick. It's not quite the same as that. It's not necessarily that powerful, but she maybe has more of it throughout her kit as well, in a way that Resnick doesn't. Also, she's not a healer, much like Sadali. If you saw my healers video, you know he's not a healer, she's not a healer. But if you have both of these characters on your team, you're going to be so incredibly topped up that you're not going to need one, potentially. At least in most cases, and since she is an incredible damage dealer and has a bunch of offensive kit as well, she's going to help you race teams that are using healers, and she should be especially good against Summer Resnick. There is some testing against that, but it's really too early for me to make many conclusions. Another good partner for them is going to be Luciel. Getting them haste is pretty cool. That can take some of the emphasis off of Exia maybe running Time Mage as a sub-job for guard haste, but really Time Mage is a pretty outdated job, and even though people swear by guard haste, or at least they did maybe a year or so ago, I just don't think it has any place in her kit, so getting the haste off of Luciel is nice. Also, being able to get re-raise for Sadali is going to be pretty cool. Re-raise also works on Exia. She already has courage, so she doesn't need it as badly as he does. She's maybe not as tanky as he is either, so maybe you could argue she needs the courage more. So which one of them you put the re-raise on is kind of up to you, but that actually made a pretty great team together. Then Gilgamesh, Ash, and Mont, both of them for a lot of the same reasons, but also because Exia is going to work especially well on defensive bait teams with either of these characters. She could be the water unit up front that is powerful enough to be able to deal with lightning and also be able to support your boys in dealing with lightning as Sadali and Mont go at it. Or you can put Gilgamesh up front and put, say, let's see, where's a team that used Gilgamesh and Exia? Gilgamesh, Exia, and Agrias? Maybe not. Gilgamesh, Exia, and Luciel? Sure. But I was thinking maybe like Exia, Summer Glaciella, Exia, Veritas of the Waters, and Gilgamesh. You got Gilgamesh up front to get the fire teams to come in after you. And then Exia's big AoE buff on her LB is going to raise fire resistance. And A, that's going to be really good for your water units, but B, it's going to be probably enough to push Gilgamesh positive, so they're not even going to have as easy a fight against him as they thought. So that's definitely something. Maybe not the most used team on this list, at averaging only about 62 uses per day between offense and defense. Gilgamesh, Luciel, and Exia had the best defense, averaging just above 2 defense per day. And even while doing this, they managed to come in third on offense too. So this team is just really strong all the way around. Tons and tons of healing here. Tons of power from Gilgamesh and Exia. Moving into one of the more used teams, this is actually the third most used team. It's the combination of Exia, Sadali, and Luciel. So the power couple plus someone to keep them healed. It's actually the third most used team, second on defense and second on offense. Again, the fact that so many of these characters heal themselves so incredibly well, and now we have characters that heal themselves and others incredibly well, and there's still things for supportive healers to do, is really saying something. I think Sadali needs the support way more than Exia, because Exia can kind of handle a lot of the support herself. But definitely a powerful team here. You know, second on offense and defense is pretty impressive. This one is well used for a reason. Then, coming into a really rare team that came in third, there were only about 7 uses of this per day. This had the best offense out of any team, averaging 4.77 stars per day. This is Summer Glaciella, Veritas of the Waters, and Exia. So all water team. It did not always do particularly well on defense, but it did have a day where it scored a 2.3, which is really impressive. And again, you have Veritas of the Waters here, serving probably a very similar role to Luciel, except that she shifts into damage mode in a way that Luciel doesn't, but providing that re-raise to these two courage-centric characters. One of the most used teams, actually the second most used team, is Exia, and then Gilgamesh and Agrias. Now, Agrias is going to become a very, very stalwart tank. She's not really going to be a powerful tank. She's not going to do a lot of damage, but she is going to have a lot of statuses, so she can still be very impactful. We're seeing from a lot of tankier characters these days, both Duran and Veritas of the Earth being great examples, that even if you can't do a lot of damage, if you can stun a lot of people with your LB, that's fine. That's fine. And Agrias has that in spades, so she's going to be hard to remove from the map, and she's also going to be a ticking time bomb for stopping and disabling and various things like that against the opposing team. So she's absolutely a threat, and this team came in 4th place on defense overall. 5th place only about 14 people using this per day, so one of the rarer teams, Gilgamesh, Luciel, and Sadali. So Sadali and God with healing support. This is going to be one of the few teams in here that doesn't feature Exia. Actually, it's the first team so far that hasn't featured Exia. And one of the reasons is that most of the best, or at least the best, most interesting Sadali teams, because there's a lot of variations on Earth Sadali, are going to include Exia. And generally speaking, in terms of the numbers, Exia's teams did better than Sadali. Exia is absolutely supporting my boy and holding him up. And honestly, this is the way it's been for every one of these power couples. We get the guy first. He's really good. We're so impressed by him. We're like, wow, this is new level of power. And then the female counterpart comes out another couple weeks later and you're like, wow. No, I was so wrong. This is the meta breaker right here. Exia is very strong. And in fact, she does remind me of Summer Helena. Not Summer Helena. Helena the Black Witch in some ways. Because she does have like AoE sleep, I believe. I don't know. I've only seen her for 5 fights, and I have not had time this morning, especially with the emergency maintenance and like building her. And I tried. Damn it. Okay, warning. I tried to build Halloween Alaya this morning, and I forgot that on that account I had previously built Halloween Lucia. So now I can't afford Mind Spheres at all. I've maxed out the price of Halloween Mind Spheres previously, so I just can't afford to buy any of them, and she's stuck at level 107. But I've been building both of those characters, managed to pull them both rather quickly this morning. So I haven't had a lot of time to really dig into what her kit does. I just know she's good, and look, I knew I wanted her for story reasons. Look, I pulled Sadali, I had the Viz, I have to get Exia, no matter what she does. Just sentimental reasons. His whole storyline has been about wanting to reunite with her. I am going to give him that damned opportunity, okay? Next team, a little bit more used, Veritas of the Waters, Jume and Exia. This was the 4th most used team. It's a very popular water variant. It's also the team that came in 5th on offense, so notable, but not at the very tippity top. This team was kind of solid on defense compared to a lot of teams like this. Like a mono element team is usually pretty easy to mess with on defense, but this one had respectable numbers, not good, but respectable for what it is. 7th place, we had Ashenmont, Sadali, and Exia. This is a team that I'm testing in this video, and only about 16 uses per day. This is a pretty rare team, but it does pretty well. It was basically just below 5th place in both offense and defense. It was basically like the solid 6. But yeah, since it didn't really excel in anything, it came in 7th, unfortunately. And really, just looking at the power of this team, I don't understand why. I do not get it. So please get out there and build this team better than the people on JP apparently have, because I think it's got way more potential than this. Coming in 8th place, this is the most popular team out of all of them, and it kind of speaks to, so there aren't as many people using Sadali for one. He has about 880 uses, whereas Exia has about 12 to 1400. So there's maybe 50% more people using Exia. Yet the most common team that I found for both of these units was Ashenmont, Veritas of the Earth, and Sadali. And the reason is that this is just the best Earth team, and Earth is the easiest configuration if you don't have Exia to really get the most out of your Sadali, especially pairing him with Ashenmont. So there are just a ton of people running this team. It gets used 282 times between offense and defense daily. That's a ton. This is by far the most common way to use Sadali on the JP side. And while it was pretty popular, it's just kind of puts up weaker numbers than the variant that has Exia instead of Veritas of the Earth, which I guess is pretty cool considering Veritas of the Earth is a free unit that maybe you have 140 by now. By the way, if you haven't 120'd or 140'd your Veritas of the Earth yet, I've managed to do this in both of my guilds, even though one of them is only ranked, I think we're in like 430. We're going on 420 because we've been picking up fast. I've been asking people to join the guild and help us out as a way of getting more Earth and Bolt medals, because they're both pretty exciting characters. I mean, we're seeing him being pretty meta-relevant if you've got Sadali, especially right now. Also really good for strike teams, even though they haven't quite been at the center of the meta in a long time. So if you want to do that, either join Silkus or Casal Union. Casal like the greens, and Union like the thing that you should organize at work so that you and your fellow coworkers can have an equal playing field with your bosses. Join either of those guilds if you want. If you're a higher level player, go for Union. If you are a lower level or maybe even beginner player, go for Silkus. We need as many people as we can get. Don't worry too much about how strong your teams are, as long as you show up. That's really what I want out of our Silkus players. We're a little bit more demanding over at Casal Union. That's a part of the Empire group of guilds. And, well, I mean, the last guild raid, one single Empire player took 2 of the top 5 scores. Yeah, they're a little bit more serious, but I think Gasol is in maybe one of the most casual spaces within Empire. So, that is also a really great guild. If you don't mind networking on Discord a little bit, you can get yourself into even higher level guilds from there by kind of showing your worth in a lower guild and moving your way up. So, lots of options for you if you need a new guild, but with all that being said, let's get back to the video. Ninth most used team that I tested... ninth place team that I tested, maybe 9th most used, but I doubt it. 15 people using this on average. It is a 3-color team with Sadali, Exia, and Agrius. This thing is going to be topped up on HP for forever. Like, Sadali and Exia both like to top each other and everyone else around them up on HP. Agrius is going to, like, restore her HP constantly. They're going to be restoring her HP constantly. She's going to be restoring everybody. Like, it's going to get ridiculous with this. This team came in 4th on defense. It had actually kind of a day. There was a little bit of a fluke for it. It only got 1 defend. It got beat pretty easily. But if you count that day out, it was averaging 2.1 defense, and it was absolutely on track to be first place on defense. It just had one bad day that really tanked its numbers in what it does best, but even with those numbers down, it still took 4th place. This is going to be a pretty impressive team, and considering that we're going to be getting a select character from Final Fantasy Tactics, you can easily select Agrius 120, throw like 120 orbs at her. They're probably going to give many of the Mind Spheres away during the event, so you could probably easily 140 her and maybe reincarnate her a couple times, and she's going to be good as she comes out. So that's basically a free unit for your team as well. Pretty cool. 10th place, we have Renoa, Ashenmont, and Sadali, another kind of variation on Earth. Sadali. We're replacing Veritas of the Earth here with Renoa. This team did really well on offense, but even worse than its counterpart on defense, and bad enough that it put it like 2 ranks behind it in terms of how well it performed. But it did come in 4th place on offense, so this team definitely has a lot of sustain and definitely has a place. Also, Renoa's going to get that haste across your team pretty effectively. At least getting it onto Sadali could be important, because Mont can kind of haste himself. And then finally, 11th place, but really, I would almost say only for the fact... Oh, oops. Oh, I didn't see that. So 3rd place on defense was Gilgamesh, Veritas of the Frost, and Sadali. This is a team that most likely has Sadali up front. Wind players, like people thinking, oh, Sadali, yeah, I saw that Jackie Fox video. I know everybody's countering him with Shurika. And then they get absolutely roasted by Gilgamesh and Veritas of the Frost. This came in 3rd place on defense. Like the other defense team that I mentioned, though, it had one day where it scored 1 on defense, and that tanked its numbers all the way back into 3rd. And what that means is that it was actually doing even better on defense than Sadali, Exia, and Agrius. This could be a really big team to look out for in terms of Sadali bait. This could be the best one. But, you know, again, with both of these teams, if they hadn't scored that 1, they would be doing so much better and like above 2 per day on average if it weren't for that 1. And that's really impressive. So there's a number of teams here that perform really well on defense. And then just looking at the overall, first place on offense, Summer Glaciella, Veritas of the Waters, and Exia. Second place on offense, Luciel, Sadali, and Exia. Third place on offense, Gilgamesh, Luciel, and Exia. Fourth place on offense, Renoa, Ashenmont, and Sadali. Fifth place on offense, Veritas of the Waters, June the Spring Celestial, and Exia. So 2 Veritas of the Waters on the top 5 for offense. She's actually proving to be a pretty powerful offensive character, especially kind of filling in some of the places where Luciel isn't. You never see these 2 overlap, and probably being used, at least for some of the same things, being reused for that re-raise, adding re-raise to your team. On defense, we have Gilgamesh, Luciel, Exia, which also did well on offense. Luciel, Sadali, and Exia. Gilgamesh, Veritas of the Frost, and Sadali. Gilgamesh, Exia, and Agrius, and both of those last 2 teams, again, they just had 1 bad day. They could easily be number 1 and number 2 if it weren't for that. And then rounding out the top 5 on defense, we have Sadali, Exia, and Agrius. Wait, that was tied for 4th. Oops. So what was the other thing that was tied for 4th? Oh, Gilgamesh, Exia, and Agrius. No, actually, Gilgamesh, Exia, and Agrius was pretty consistent. It had a high average, but it never scored above 2. Like, all the rest of these teams only scored above 2 except for their 1s. This one, it was just constantly like 1.8, 1.6. So it was good and consistent, but maybe not necessarily better. So these 2 right here, I would definitely keep my eye on. And if you're looking for a way to use your Veritas of the Frost, this could be a really good way to do it. So, with all that being said, best of luck to people who are trying to pull the entire power couple. I hope you've been saving for 6 months, blindly hoping that this would happen like I have. I kid, I jest. Who knew this was going to happen? But I was happy to have saved on this particular account when it happened, because I think this account is going to make the best use of them, and I'm personally going to be trying to make Ashenmont, Sadali, and Exia a thing. So, if you want to join me in that, then throw them on your defense especially. And with all that being said, remember the free-to-play option for YouTube is to like and subscribe. Also, ring that bell so that I don't let my potty mouth get in the way of you seeing my new videos. That way you'll always see every single one of them, not missing a beat and keeping up with the meta. Also, if you would like to say thank you to the channel, click the link in the description to see all the other stuff that I do online. I sell books, I write fiction, so check those out. I have stuff in a couple of different genres I usually describe at the end of these videos. You probably have some idea about that. If not, just click the link, judge a book by its cover or something. You can also donate to the channel on Ko-fi or Patreon. And with all that being said, no matter what you do, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.